Well, the bill for the party has arrived, and unfortunately, it's called inflation. Too much money chasing a fixed amount of goods. Well, let's look at inflation. So the first graph is CPI, Consumer Price Index. The second graph is PPI, Producer Price Index. As you will see, this is the 1980s, the very beginning of the 1980s, when Paul Volcker had to take interest rates incredibly high to break inflation, because we were spending too much money and printing too much money in the 60s and 70s. Then we had 40 years of falling inflation, 40 years of falling interest rates, and now, boom, inflation is back. 8.2% right now with CPI, 8.8% with PPI. Now, the issue is, if you calculated inflation today like they did back in the 70s and 80s, by most calculations, CPI would be running at around 11, 12%. And I talked about that last year on how they calculate housing costs, shelter costs, through something called OER, Owner's Equivalent Rent. I'm not going to dig into that today because I talked about it last year, but it's a lag and will keep inflation grinding higher even though housing values are starting to decline. But we have a massive inflation problem.